What if I told you that most sales reps are losing deals not because their product sucks, but because they don't know how to handle 7 simple objections? And what's crazy is that these same 7 objections show up in almost every single B2B sales conversation. Look, I've been doing this for over 19 years and I've closed over $185 million in B2B tech sales, and I've hit 15 straight President's Clubs. And I can tell you from experience, the difference between average reps making 80 to 100K a year and top performers making 300K plus a year comes down to how well they handle objections. Today, I'm going to break down the 7 objections you'll hear over and over again, and more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly how to overcome them. So let's dive in. But first, let me say this. Most objections can actually be prevented if you do a great job earlier in your sales process. If you nail your discovery call and really understand your customer's problems, you'll deal with way fewer objections at the end. But even when you do everything right, you still face these 7 objections, so let's get into it. Now, objection number 1 is your price is too high. This is the most common objection you'll ever hear, and here's what most reps get wrong. When they hear this, they panic and they start listing all the reasons why their solution is worth it. Don't do that. Here's what's really happening when someone says your price is too high. They don't see enough value. That's it. The value you showed them is less than the price you're asking them to pay. So here's how you handle it. First, don't freak out. Simply say, I appreciate it. Make them feel heard. Then ask them this. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that specifically? This is key because maybe they think everything's expensive, or maybe it's just one specific part, like the implementation fee or the monthly cost. You need to know exactly what they're talking about. Next, you need to ask them this. Price aside, is there anything else holding you back? And here's the power move. Ask them to resell you on your own solution. Say something like, let's put price aside for a second. Based on everything we've talked about today, what did you like most about our solution? When they start listing all the benefits, they're basically convincing themselves. It's way more powerful than you trying to convince them. The truth is, if you did a great job in your discovery call showing them what it'll cost them if they do nothing, price becomes less of an issue. Always remember, people buy when the value is 10 times greater than the price. Now, price objections are pretty straightforward because at least you know what they're concerned about. But the next objection is tricky because it's usually hiding something else underneath. And that objection is, I need to think about it. This is a classic stall, and most reps just accept it and say, okay, when should I follow up? That's a big mistake. Here's the thing. You don't actually know what they need to think about. Is it the price? Is it your solution? Is it you? Is it something else going on in their company? You have no idea. So here's what you do. Say, yeah, absolutely, take your time, but can you help me understand what specifically is on your mind? Then just be quiet and let them talk. Keep asking questions until you get to the real objection, because I need to think about it is never the real objection. It's always something else hiding underneath. Maybe they're worried about getting buy-in from their team. Maybe they're not sure if it'll actually work. Maybe they had a bad experience with a similar product or service before. Once you know what the real concern is, you can then actually address it. But if you just let them think about it, you'll probably never hear from them again. Now, speaking of getting buy-in from their team, that brings me to objection number 3. And if you hear this one at the end of your deal, it's usually a sign you missed something important early on. I need to run this by my boss, CEO, team, whatever they say. If you're hearing this at the end of your sales process and you're surprised, you messed up. You should have known about the other decision makers way earlier on. But let's say you are stuck here. Here's exactly what to do. First, find out if they are actually sold on your solution. So ask them, hey, if it was just up to you, would you feel comfortable moving forward right now? If they hesitate even a little bit, you've got more work to do with them first. They can't sell your solution to their boss if they're not 100% convinced themselves. But let's just say they say, yeah, I'm totally in. Great. Now ask them, when will you talk to them next? They might say tomorrow, Friday. Perfect. Now here's the question. What do you think they might say? What concerns might they have? This is super important because now you're coaching them on how to handle objections from their leader. You're preparing them for the next conversation. They're not salespeople like you or me. But then it doesn't stop there. You need to ask them the following question. If they bring up, then insert a specific concern or concerns that are likely to come up. How would you handle that? If they can explain how they'll overcome those objections, you've got a real champion who's going to fight for you and stick their neck out on the line. But if they can't, you need to coach them through it right there on that call. And before you get off that call, always set a specific next step based on when that conversation happens. Don't just leave it vague. Now, one of the concerns that most leaders or executives might bring up is the next objection. And this one comes up all the time, especially in bigger organizations. We don't have the budget. This objection usually means one of two things. Either you're talking to someone who can't actually make budget decisions in the first place, or you didn't show them enough value. Here's the reality though. If someone has a big enough problem, they'll find money, period. Think about it this way. If a company's main server goes down and they're losing $50,000 an hour, do you think they're going to say, sorry, we don't have budget for IT support this quarter? No way. They'll find the money immediately because the cost of doing nothing is massive. Or let's say a company just got hit with a data breach. They didn't budget for cybersecurity upgrades this year, but guess what? They're going to find budget real quick because the alternative is getting sued, losing customers, and destroying their reputation. The point is, when the problem is big enough and urgent enough, budget just magically appears. People shift money around. They get approval for emergency spending. They find a way. So if you're getting this objection at the end, ask yourself, did I really show them what it's going to cost them if they do nothing? Did I show them the return on investment if they do work with us? If the answer is no, you skipped critical steps in your discovery process. Here's the better approach. You should be asking about budget flexibility earlier in the process, not at the end. During your discovery call, after you've uncovered some major problems, just ask them, hey, let's just say we keep talking and I show you our solution can solve these big problems you're facing. Would you be able to access additional funds if needed? If they say absolutely not, our budget is locked, you know right then on whether to keep investing time in the deal. But don't wait until the end to find this out. If you're already at the end and you're hearing this objection, you need to go back and reestablish the value. What it's costing them every month that they don't fix that problem, that's the number that needs to be way bigger than the price of your solution. But here's the thing, even if they do have budget, that doesn't mean they'll spend it, which leads us to objection number 5. And this one's a silent deal killer. This isn't a priority right now. Usually they don't say that, but it's what they're thinking. This means they don't think their problem is urgent enough. They're at like a level 2 pain when they need to be at a level 10. Think about it this way. A level 1 pain is like, yeah, this is kind of annoying, but everybody's got level 1 annoying pains. But a level 10 pain is, we need to fix this right now or we're screwed. Your job in the discovery process is to help them see they're actually at a level 10, not a level 2. Let me give you an example. If a company's website is loading slow, that might feel like a level 2 pain. Kind of annoying, but whatever. But what if you showed them they're losing 5,000 visitors every month because people bounce when the site takes too long to load, and each one of those visitors is worth $50 in potential value? That's $250,000 a month they're losing. That went from a level 2 pain to a level 10 pain real fast. That's what great salespeople do. They don't create fake problems. They help people see how big their real problems actually are. And if you're getting this objection, you either didn't do a good job uncovering the pain, or this genuinely isn't a good fit. And that's okay. Not every prospect is a good prospect. Now let's say you did establish urgency, you did show value, but then you get hit with this next objection. And this one's tough because it feels like you're suddenly in a competition. We're looking at competitor X. First, never talk trash about your competition. It makes you look desperate and unprofessional. Instead, get curious. Usually what I say when I hear this is, hey, that's great. They're a solid company. Based on what you've seen so far, which way are you leaning? Notice how I'm asking them to tell me where I stand. If they say they're leaning towards the competitor, don't panic. Just ask them, can you tell me what you like most about their solution compared to ours? Listen carefully though. You might learn that the competitor did a better job explaining something, or there's a feature they have that you didn't mention. Or maybe there's another person involved who has a relationship with the company you were unaware of. Those things matter. Once you know what they like, you can position your solution differently or address those specific points with questions. But here's the thing. If you're constantly losing to the same competitor, you need to adjust your sales process or improve your relationship. You need to differentiate yourself earlier in the conversation, not at the very end. And finally, whether they're comparing you to a competitor or not, there's one objection that shows up right before deals close. And this one's actually a good sign because it means they're close to making a decision. I need to talk to some of your customers first. This means they're not sure if your solution actually works or if it's the right fit. They're uncertain, but uncertain about what? That's what you need to find out. So when you get this objection, you just respond with this. Absolutely, I can definitely set that up. Can you help me understand when you talk to our customers what specific things you want to find out? Because maybe they're worried about implementation, maybe they're worried about customer support, maybe they're worried about ROI. You don't know until you ask. Once you know what they're concerned about, you can pick the right customer for them to talk to, someone who had a similar concern and can speak to how you solved it. This objection usually means you didn't share enough case studies or success stories earlier in your sales process. Make sure you're weaving those in throughout your sales conversations and not waiting till the very end. It's important to tell stories because stories sell. All right, so there you have it, the 7 most common objections in B2B sales and exactly how to handle them. But here's what I want you to remember. The best way to handle objections is to prevent them from happening in the first place by running a powerful discovery call where you uncover the real pain, the cost of doing nothing, and who all the decision makers are throughout the entire organization that are involved. When you nail that, you'll have way fewer objections at the end. And when you do get objections, don't panic, get curious, and ask great questions. Find out what's really going on. Most of the time, the objection they're giving you isn't the real objection. If you want to learn my exact framework for running discovery calls that lead to virtually objection-free closes, check out the link in the description. Now get out there and start closing more deals. I'll see you in the next video.